Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly fishing video. This week I've managed to whittle down a list as long as my arm to just 5 flies that you're going to need on the large Stillwaters. There's going to be some controversy and some argument, no doubt, but just let's see where it takes us. And without further ado, let's get into it. Many of the large venues then are already open, and social media feeds are starting to fill up with folks' catches on the big ponds. Focus is turning from fly tying to fly fishing. Opening day dates vary on large Stillwaters, but for me this year I will be making my first cast on Rutland Water on the 11th of March. There really is nowhere quite like it. The scenery, the fishing, and of course the iconic Normanton Church. I did try to book a boat for Rutland on that day, but I was a little slow off the mark, so I'll be traipsing the banks trying to find a decent spot where I can catch a few trout. Now, I'm not a regular bank angler at Rutland, so if you have any suggestions, please make a comment in the comment section below and I'll be sure to try out the spot on the 11th of March. So if you see me on the banks on opening day, please do come up and say hello. To the list then. Well, to give myself a chance, I'm going to take it as read that you already have blobs and fabs. What modern Stillwater angler doesn't? Fly number 1 then. This is a bit of a nostalgic pick for me. It's a fly that started my season for the last 20 years. I always try it first and it very rarely lets me down. The Candy Floss Boobie has become a very staple fly in my box. I've always got severals in various sizes from size 10 down to size 14. It's a great fly. I like to fish it on its own generally, early season, on a very fast sink line and between sort of 8 and 12 foot of tippet, depending on how fast I want to get it to the deck. And the reason I want to get it down that fast is at the start of the season, you may find that the fish are hard on the bottom and not particularly active. And this fly on a fast sinker will get down to that depth. It's equally as good as a supporting fly on a washing line setup. So you would fish the Candy Floss on the point in either buzzers, dialbacks, cormorants, the choice is obviously yours, up, and you would fish that on a slower sinking intermediate line which will fish down through the depths, working the water column to try and find the fish. Fly number 2 then, the Barker buzzer. Now I'm sure I'm going to be inundated with people telling me that it's not called that, it's called something else. But there is a good reason that I call it the Barker buzzer. It came to me some 25 years ago whilst fishing an AMFC spring match. Now the AMFC spring match is a fantastic event where all the leagues come together. And 25 years ago the Army was in the bottom league, but we were very lucky that we had the chance to share the boat with some top class international anglers. And my friend Ronnie Christie shared the boat that day with a guy called Dave Barker, and he was obviously on the wrong side of the boat because he wasn't doing so well until once Dave had finished, obviously he passed him this fly, and when Ronnie came off the boat having bagged up with a fly, he passed it to me and it soon became a strong staple buzzer pattern for the Army team. So we call it well, I certainly still call it the Barker buzzer. You can call it what you want. I like to fish it, if I'm moving the fly, I like to fish it on a straight shanked hook. And that includes the washing line or straight through. If I'm fishing it static or very slowly, I prefer the curved hooks. That's just me, it's up to you. Now, fishing buzzers very slowly is the most effective method that I find. Just occasionally putting long strips into your retrieve, which lifts your buzzers up in the water column. And it's at that time, just as they're starting to descend slowly again, that you'll often get really good takes from trout. Fly number 3 then, the Cormorant. Now, I could show you 100 different varieties of the Cormorant, but I'm going to show you this little version that I've got a lot of faith in. Now, the Cormorant, again, came to us through competition. Many years ago, a chap called Graham Pearson was invited along to the Army spring match, and one of the lucky members of the Federation got to fish with Graham. And again, he was kind enough to share one of his killing patterns. He bagged up in next to no time, or what was considered very good in them days. I think it was just under an hour on Cormorants, and he showed us the pattern. Very, very simple to tie and very, very effective. Now, the way he fished it was on a high speed, high D line, which you'll find hard to find anymore, but what replaced that is the airflow sweep lines, which has a very similar sink profile. And he would cast it out 3 flies or 4 flies, whatever your preference is for fishing, and just retrieve it back, steady pulls, and he caught lots of fish doing it. Again, the fly is so popular now, everyone's got their favourite version. This is just, I can't even say this is my favourite version, it's just a version that I quite like. And I like to mix it up. I won't put 3 of the same fly on. I'll mix it up with some red hollow cormorants, some pearly cormorants, and perhaps even this one. The original didn't have any jungle cock eyes. It was just peacock herald and a straight marabou wing, and it seemed to work just fine. So don't get wrapped up in the detail. It's the profile and the movement of this fly that makes it score so well. Guys, if you're enjoying the videos, please don't forget to give them a like. Consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell notification, and it will let you know when I'm releasing new content on YouTube. It really does help channel growth, and I would appreciate your support. Fly number 4 then. Again, I was a bit stuck. Dialback or Cruncher. They're both super effective flies, but in the end, I had to include Andy Everett's Dialback. Now, I say Andy Everett's Dialback because that's the name of the angler that passed the fly to me. I'm sure other people have got different names for them. I just like to refer to the anglers that pass on the patterns as the names of the flies, and it keeps me right. So, the fly itself, very, very simple. It's a black version of the famous Welsh pattern, and it has jungle cock cheeks. Now, over the years, this fly has accounted for more trout than I care to recall, and it's my go-to version of this pattern. Although I have very many versions, this is the one that I'll often reach for, especially early season. I think the fish take it as a buzzer when higher in the water column. It can be taken for any number of invertebrates making its way to the surface. It's a superb pattern, and it definitely is a Dialback. Andy refers to it as his little buzzer, which can be quite confusing when you're on the water seeing Andy catching lots of fish and you shout across, "What are you fishing?" And it took me a long time to get in my head that actually he was on Dialbacks, not buzzers. Thanks for that, Andy. Fly number 5 then, and just in case you thought I was going soft, I'm definitely going to include the snake. Now, I have fished competitions for most of my angling life, if you like, and I've only started to fish these larger lures and patterns like snakes in the last 2 to 3 years as competitions are starting to take a back seat for me, and I cannot get over how effective these patterns are. They look terrible, they've not got a great reputation. I mean, I know that they're banned on many fisheries, but for me, if everything else was failing, I would reach for one of these flies. I'm showing you a black one here, but the white and the lighter coloured ones, I've even got yellow snakes now that have done me an amazing job at the smaller Stillwaters that I've visited over the winter months. It's maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but it's certainly something I will be giving a swim when I go up to Rutland. I find the best way of fishing snakes, contrary to Tim Joyce thinking I fished a team of 3, is fishing it on its own. It's a big handful. It can be difficult to cast depending on the length of the snake that you're using. I like to keep mine below 10 centimetres. 10 centimetres is about as long as I like to go, and I'll fish it on 10 to 12 foot of tippet. Casting out something like a fast glass or a DI3 line, which is going to slowly descend through the water column so that I can explore the depths while retrieving. I like to use the roly-poly retrieve while I'm fishing the snakes, or a short jerky retrieve. It just seems to excite the fish and makes them come, and they'll very often strike at this fly, especially just at the end of the cast when you least expect it, and your rod will just bend over. So always make sure you hang at the end of the retrieve, and it will serve you well. I will let you know in the form of a video how my opening day goes, But please let me know how your opening day goes. I'll be keen to know where you've visited and what you've caught. If you're thinking about hitting the large Stillwaters yourself in the coming weeks, this video may interest you. Also, I think you might enjoy this video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.